and gentlemen, please welcome to the big show, please welcome to the 20th Century Theater, a legendary engineer, a great producer, Mr. Geoff Emerick.
Fondest memories from working with the Beatles?
One of the biggest memories that always sticks in my life is when we recorded A Day in the Life, and when I lifted the vocal fader up with John's voice, you know, on the other end with its slapback echo, because John used to hate the sound of his voice. He always wanted to give it up a bit. So it was when we first lifted the fader up and heard him sing down A Day in the Life for the first time, and just shivers went down our backs. You know.
That's an incredible
song.
So
I mean, you know, and they really did. It was shivers just ran down our backs in the control room when we heard him start singing that. We'd heard him sort of run through it down in the studio. You know, great memory. You know.
Who was the toughest one to work with?
The toughness came from the demands, either from John, who had the ideas in his head but couldn't express himself, and Paul, who was the musician, sort of the musician's musician, who had the musical expressions. You know, one of the nicest solos that we ever did to my way of thinking, with the emotion, it was the one that he did on Free as a Bird, you know, when we made that record, because we knew John was the emotion from George into that solo is just enormous.
It is.
It really is. He's obviously just playing it for John.
You have most certainly been around for some of the real important years of rock and roll and that. And do you find it hard to keep your energy level up, or do kids like this inspire you?
Not at all. I get inspiration from this, you know, because there's so much garbage around. Forget the expression, but there is.
I couldn't agree with you.
And it's so rare to come across, you know, this artistic merit, as I call it. I think the last time was with Nellie, a young girl singing from New York called Nellie Mackay.
Oh yeah.
That was another great sort of talent. She was only like 18 and just oozing with talent. You know? So I only sort of really try and latch on to something that I know is going to be rewarding for me personally. You know?
Right.
I mean, I've got a good feeling about it. I'm sure.
Well, I think that you know, whatever you guys put together on it is going to be well worthwhile.
Sure.
It's just wonderful to have you in the house here.
Geoff has worked with Robin Trower, Geoff Beck, Elvis Costello, Emerick, Gino Vanelli. Badfinger, yeah. I mean, a who's list of artists that a lot of people, I mean, he's associated, of course, most with the Beatles, but he has a track record of, Robin Trower's Bridge of Sighs was his landmark.
Oh, that's
you
it.
know, to our generation, everybody.
Yeah.
He helped Robin Trower get that guitar sound on that album.
I mean, the list of people that you just, you know, laid out are some of the most serious musicians around in that, and it must be a treat to be able to work with people that do take it that seriously,
yeah, sure.
that are willing to put in the time to really make it, you know, right, and are willing to cooperate and take advantage of your expertise on this.
I mean, I can't make records, whether it be producing or engineering, you know, with modern techniques. I'm still back to, you know, the analog way, and it comes to the studio floor, and it's not manufactured in the control room with tuning devices, and the singers sung the song twice, they go home, and you do the vocal for them. So I don't work like that, you know. So I end up working with real artists. If Stevie or Zach were to sing, when we start making a record, I mean, you know, if they're out of tune, we don't retune it for them. They go back and re-sing it, retune, you know. Simple as that. Which is good for them. Unfortunately.
And not to be a bragging dad, and I don't want to come off that way, but I mean,
They get it all from their mom anyway.
for instance, Stevie's harmonica playing. In my knowledge, I don't know if there's anybody his age. I mean, he could play like that. He could play like that 3 years ago. He literally locked himself away for a long time and studied my old blues collection. I would challenge anybody, any person on earth today on a blues harmonica, to put him up against Stevie.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of rap?
I hate it.
Good.
I can't listen to it.
Well, that's why I didn't call it rap music,
No,
because
exactly.
it's just
No, I can't listen to that.
Yeah.
Except we did, on Nellie Mackay's album, there was one rap track that she did, and the vocal was extremely fast, and it's very easy to do those vocals with modern technology, with computers. But we were on analog, and the guy who was operating the tape machines was actually dropping in the lines because they were so fast. So she did alternate lines, and then we were sort of dropping in the other lines in between, so she missed a line, put the next line in, this line, put this on, and the guy was like dropping in and out like this. It was unbelievable to see it. So from that aspect, it was, I appreciate doing it.
It was a technical challenge.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But hers was sort of tongue-in-cheek, in the version, but it was good. But I hate that.
Now there was a couple of particular compressors and things that you were using that were kind of almost exclusive to that Beatles sound.
I was talking to your engineer Chris earlier on about that, because it was basically the drum sound which changed on Revolver, which was closer sound. But I was using a Fairchild 660 limiter, and I used to put the whole drum kit through that because the drums were just mono in those days. That's how it magically sort of got that. It just what happened, Compressors were just outtakes and stuff. Sometimes I would, sort of put one compressor into another compressor into another compressor into another compressor and so on. And then using the revolving Leslie speaker for effects as well, which was vocal sound into my which only shoots in on the last verse. And I noticed that on the other verses prior to that, it's actually stationary, and I think we let it start spinning on the last verse.
His contribution is a landmark in the history of technological, all the wonderful things we have today.
But that was from Revolver onwards.
Yeah, from Revolver onwards. The sonics and the technology that developed from, like Elvis Costello says in the foreword of the book, he's talking about, Geoff's sitting there working with duct tape and just MacGyvering everything because the Beatles are going, I want to sound like this, and the other guys are going, I don't know how to make that sound, and Geoff never said no, he just said, okay, well, let me try.
Well, make a sound.
There's a documentary on Bob Dylan that was very interesting in the early 60s. An artist was Gage. Someone came to Dylan and wanted to tell him about somebody in Greenwich Village, and his first question was, do they have anything to say? Whether it be musical or lyrical.
Right.
And a lot of the music today really doesn't have that much to say. It's kind of an inner traumatic psychological frustration.
So you're saying that songs about cars and big wads of money and big butts and that is not really saying anything?
Well, it is, but the Beach Boys said it in a very melodic way.
Well, these are modern day poets.
And there's nothing wrong with modern day poetry, but the repetition of it, it's funny, it's so cookie cutter. That's my issue. I mean, there are certain modern songs, whether they be hip hop or modern rock, that do stand out and have a place. But nevertheless, what happens is you have like 150 other people or bands singing the same song in the same key with the same message, and eventually it's like watching the same car commercial over.
Right.
You just lose it. Yeah, I think everything's a wheel, and there's more musicality in that era. We lived, our generation. It was a very special time. I liken it to the time when the greats, the Mozarts, Beethovens, and Handels, they had something going on there. Symphonies are still making millions off of their music now. If it's good today, if it's really good, it's always good. And I think the wheel is turning around where more and more young people are interested in discovering harmony, melody, vocals, musicality in general. And these guys have a great interest in musicality where the modern stuff didn't really challenge their talent. I mean, they could do that in their sleep. And everybody goes, "What?" They would come up to me at bars and we're playing. They go, "Why don't you let the boys play what they want to play?" And I start laughing and go, "They are playing what they want to play." There's a great scene in one of the Beatle documentaries. They're coming off stage at Washington, D.C., and the press really didn't have a clue at that time as what's going on. So John Lennon's walking backstage, and he goes, "John," he goes, "Which one are you?" And John goes, "I'm Eric." He goes, "Eric, nice to see you," and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "No, I'm just joking, I'm John." And he goes, "How does it feel to know that," I think he said 40 million people are looking at you right now?" And he points to the cameraman and he goes, "I only see one."
Well, where are you off to after you leave the States?
Next weekend I'm going to Philadelphia, Narrows, of they've got a university there, so Howard Massey, who co-wrote the book
Oh,
with
yeah.
me, Howard's going to mediate, you know, a talk. So there's about 400, I think, going to this university. So we talk about the book and Beatle days and stuff.
Cool.
And there's tons of questions, as you can imagine.
Oh, I imagine.
And so you know, I get enjoyment from that too now. So that's great.
So are you on book tours a lot with it?
No, this is not really a book tour. This is, you know, Naris, the Grammy people have sort of organised it, because we did one down in Austin, Texas a few weeks ago, and it was so good. We did it on the Austin City setting.
Awesome.
So we did it down there. So it's all that. You know, so I thought, well, I don't want to do too many of them, but I said I'd do the one in Philadelphia. You know. Why not sort of share what you know and take it with you and not tell anyone? So what's the point?
Yeah. What would you like to add to all this? Being the father of all of these talented kids, it's kind of, I know your head's got to be swelled up, you know, huge when you get on stage with those guys.
Come on, Dad.
And that, you know.
Well, I'm having the time of my life. I'm at my third childhood, so I don't know how else to better state it. I'm just having a great time, and I feel honored to play with it now.
And the experience that you personally, you know, like myself, you've possibly gained throughout your life, and I get great, you know, enjoyment from passing that experience on to someone else, you know, which is great. It's just been my life, so hopefully I'll brush onto these boys, you know.